live from the Daytona 500. It's the show that got custom helmets, bro.
I love these.
All week we were talking about getting full jumpsuits. I actually think the helmets are better because it's less of a commitment. You can put it on, you know, wear it for a little while, safety reasons, and then maybe take it off. And right now we're thrilled to be here. The audience is thrilled too because we have these special microphones. Nick actually can't talk, so it'll be one of our...
I'm locked in, buddy.
Okay.
I'm locked in.
How is it with the helmet on?
I feel very secure, ready to race if they need me. This is an unbelievable...
It's been fantastic so far.
Awesome.
It's our first time at the Daytona 500. We're thrilled to be here. 68th running of the Daytona 500. Tons of storylines. We've got a power-packed guest list coming. And of course, we've got the Bud list too. I know that Nick is impressed by the grandeur of the place because, like my children, he just keeps asking about when he can go to the gift shop.
No, that's not true.
To the point where had to arrange transportation to get him to the gift shop.
Gear. I do want some gear from the Daytona 500. I think it'll be great.
But I was like, let's focus on the show, and then you can get to the gift shop.
Yeah, that is true. That is exactly what happened.
We are starting with the Great American Race. It will be Sunday, 12:30 on Fox. Tons of storylines before this race, none bigger than who you got. Here are the odds, Nick, and we'll start with you. Denny Hamlin at the top spot, Ryan Blaney, William Byron going for his three-peat. Kyle, he's tied the odds with Kyle Larson. Kyle Busch is coming on later in the show. Fastest last night, my guy Joey Logano from Connecticut. Also, Chase Elliott I like a lot. Brad Keselowski, who broke his leg in December. No, actually in January, he's walking around with a cane, but still giving it a go. So a lot of storylines here, Nick. We'll start with you. Who do you like? Not in pencil as we learn more about the race.
Well, I think the most interesting and storyline-laden result would be either of the Kyles winning. So Kyle Busch or Kyle Larson. So Kyle Busch, you already alluded to it, won the pole last night. He is going to be a first ballot NASCAR Hall of Famer, and this is the one thing he's never done. And this was his 21st start, obviously, famously. Dale Earnhardt Jr. won in his 20th start. And so for Kyle Busch, who's come close a number of times, 3 top 5s, 5 top 10s, he's won 2 season championships, to go from the pole to victory lane, which, by the way, has only been done, or has not been done in the last 25 years. Last person to do it was 2000. That would be remarkable. And then Kyle Larson, who is the defending series champion, but has really struggled, Brew, at the Daytona 500. 0 top 5 finishes in his career, only 4 top 10s. So the odds tell you those guys are very, very live to win this. Either one of them winning this thing and being kind of the final crowning achievement of great careers would be, I think, the best story.
Yeah, and if either one of them wins, they get the crown jewel.
Yeah,
both of them are going for that last of the 4 big races. So that would be great. But I'm going to surprise you guys. My guy was not among the favorites.
Wow.
But he is great on this track, and that's Bubba Wallace. I'm going with him. Now, first of all, 7 of the last 10 winners have been first-time winners here at Daytona. Mm-hmm. So he has never won here. He would be the 8th and 11th.
Very close.
But he's raced well here. Yeah, he's 21-22. He finished as a runner-up. He's also won another race here at Daytona. So in 6 of his top 10 finishes, he's got 10 top 10 finishes. 6 of them are here in Daytona. So this is the best track he races at. And so I think he's got a real chance to do something special here and win. And it would be the first win for, he represents Jordan and Denny Hamlin with the 2311 organization. It would be their first win at a 500, and it'd be appropriate because he was their first driver.
Wow. Speaking of Michael Jordan, just a little tease for tomorrow. Tomorrow, live from Daytona, most to gain and most to lose.
He should be on the most to gain.
Maybe for the first time.
Right.
I'm just saying for the first time.
That would be historic. Yeah. I've got 3 guys, and it's mostly a overview of my view on sports. Because as you know, I was watching the NBA this whole year. I look at the Oklahoma City Thunder and say, oh, man, Thunder sure look good. They could run it back. And as we just saw the mighty Patriots fall to the Seattle Seahawks, we saw the odds open up there. Yeah. Next year, I'm looking at the Seahawks.
Yeah, shocker.
I mean, I'm just giving like what the data is telling me. William Byron has won this race the last 2 times. Only 5 drivers have ever won back-to-back. He would be the first person to win 3 in a row. The interesting part about it is how much of this is his feel for the track, how much of it is a little bit of lady luck. He's only led the Daytona 500 for 14 laps over the last 2 races. That is a very different story than my other guy, Joey Logano. He's from Connecticut. When I was on another show, we had him on. I was like, hey, race car driver from Connecticut. But I've always rooted for Joey Logano. He already has won one, but he has led the Daytona 500 at some point in the last 9 races. So he's kind of the opposite. He's always in the mix, hasn't been able to get across the finish line first since his original win. And finally, Brad Keselowski. The Brad Keselowski story of he's taking his daughter skiing, drops her off, falls on the ice, breaks his femur. It's like, you break your femur? You're going to be out for 6 months. Like, no, turns out, was cleared recently. He's going to run. He showed up here. He's with a cane, but he has a great sense of humor about it. The cane has got sponsor stickers all over it. He says he feels better in the car than he does out of the car. He's 40 years old, looking to win. I just love the story of a quick comeback, so I'm rooting for Keselowski as well.
No, that's a great, and he's also in line for the crown jewel.
Well, so what Brew's talking about, because I know probably a handful of first things first viewers might not be super tuned in to the history of motorsports or what Brew's talking about when he says the crown jewels. 4 biggest races on the calendar: the Brickyard, the Coca-Cola 600, the Southern, and of course the Daytona 500. There are only 4 guys ever who have won all 4 of those races, and they are names that even the most casual of sports fans know. It is Jeff Gordon, it is Dale Earnhardt Sr., it is Jimmy Johnson, and it's Kevin Harvick. There are 3 guys who, if they win this race, that's the last crown jewel race to complete their, quadfecta, if you will. And that is Brad Keselowski and the 2 Kyles that I was talking about before. To go to your first guy, the guy who has won back-to-back, William Byron, what's interesting about guys going for a three-peat, because 5 guys have gone back-to-back. Mm-hmm. Only one has come even close to the three-peat, and that was Denny Hamlin in 2021 when he came in 5th. And as far as teams going back-to-back, like the Hendricks team, which has been the most successful, they have the most poles here, the most championships. We've never even had a team three-peat, right. And so this is Hendricks' 3rd attempt at a three-peat for their team, which obviously Byron winning would do that. And who was your other guy? Oh, Logano. Who I believe it's the record, at least modern record, most consecutive Daytona 500s having led a lap, to your point. He's just always in the mix.
That's what I'm interested in. We're going to bring Jamie Little on in a second. I'm interested in the strategy of how often you want to be ahead. So if you're ahead, obviously, you can't get wrecked. But at the same time...
Well, you can, though, because somebody the guy in 2nd or 3rd trying to pass you can wreck you, which we've seen happen to guys that they got wrecked because they were leading. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because somebody makes it on the last lap, makes an aggressive pass.
It's a rude move. If I'm leading, do not try to wreck me. I think middle is dangerous. In the back, you don't want to just get lost.
And William Byron, the last one that he won, it was probably, to your point, maybe a little more right place, right time than the first one because of, to your point, he was in 11th late in that race. And then a wreck
9th,
on the last lap.
Yeah,
maybe that's what I was thinking.
Amazing.
And then the wreck takes guys out, and he sweeps in, and all of a sudden goes back-to-back.
All right. Joining us now is one of the voices of NASCAR on Fox. Jamie, the note said this is your 12th Daytona. I just want to confirm that it's your 12th Daytona, because I don't know if we're counting visits or it's just in an official capacity. You were at the pole last night. You talked to Kyle Busch. So you've got all the storylines for us. What do you think is the #1 storyline. And also, obviously, thank you for joining us.
Good to see you guys. If you could have seen what just went down,
Wow.
It was like a full-fledged pit crew.
That's what I was going to,
right.
yes.
We were like
Moving.
dancing around in chairs here, got my headset on. It's great to be back with you guys. We
You
did
as
this
well.
at the Indy
Thanks for
500.
Yes.
We did, and you were gracious enough to have us to your home. It
had
was
a
so
party.
nice. It's great to see you again.
Met all my dogs.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
we know each
Yes.
other. Yeah, so good to be here. Gosh, the storylines, you mentioned it. Kyle Busch, 20 years this guy has been trying to win this race and win a pole. It's the most important pole of the whole year. The prestige, the attention that you get to lead the field to green on Sunday. For Kyle Busch, that's such a big story. So automatically it turns to the big story on Sunday. Can he win it? I mean, there's some stories out there, these champions like Kyle, 2-time champion that's never won this race. And that hurts. He's got one spot in his trophy case. It's the only thing the guy has not done.
So this might sound silly, but at least recent history makes it, I think, a legitimate question. Is it good to be on the pole for this race?
Yes, it's all the accolades. It's the money. It's all, well done team. You got the car dialed in. We had the fastest car, best engine, all those things. But it really doesn't matter.
Right, that's what I mean. That as far as your ability to win the race. So why is that? Why does there seem to be almost no correlation in this race between starting position and finishing position?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's a drafting style track. So what you're going to see on Sunday is the alliances. You'll see the Ford drivers trying to work together. You'll see the Chevrolet drivers trying to work together and the Toyota drivers. They try to organize it. It is a chess match at high speed out here. And that's why I love this style of racing so much. Not everybody loves it because the big wrecks, but that's the reason why a lot of people do love it. But it's choreographed. It's choreographed chaos. You will see things happen on pit road because they're trying to come in together or they're trying to work together and then they end up wrecking each other coming off at turn 4. So that, to answer your question, they can drop back together and coordinate and work forward, but you don't have to be at the front all race.
Well, we talked about earlier Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Brad Keselowski, all going for the crown jewel if one of them wins this race. Which of those guys would you say you feel like has the best shot to do that?
Gosh, I mean, Kyle Larson, this just hasn't been his style of racing. It's just been one of those things, and like his Achilles heel, right? The guy can win in anything, anywhere at any time, except for these style of tracks, and I know it eats at him. Kyle Busch, I would say, just based off of what we saw last night, obviously it's something he wants more than anything, and he's just one of the best we've ever seen in NASCAR. I would say Kyle Busch, looking at it now, has the best shot, but tonight are the dual races. We'll have a better idea who has that better looking car in the draft.
I watched your interview with Brad Keselowski. He had his cane. He feels like he's in good spirits. And just reading the initial report to go from, he actually talked about old school medicine and cutting your leg off that's how much his leg hurt, to the fact that now he's got a cane and he feels good in the car. Are you as surprised as I am that he's going to be ready to go, and how do you think he's going to perform?
I'm not so surprised because that's just how these guys are made. Like it doesn't matter what happens. They want to be in that race car and nothing else matters. And crawling inside these cars is not the easiest thing. And he's not the shortest driver. So for him to climb in, you see him walking with his cane right there. But a few years back, he shattered his ankle in a test crash. He came back 4 days later and won the race. I mean, it was just that motivation, that drive. And you get in that car, those guys strap in, and adrenaline takes over. So, honestly, he's a guy that's never won this race. I wouldn't be surprised if he pulled it off.
To that point, Brew had a wicked cough like a few months ago. Didn't miss a show.
Yeah.
So well done.
I play hurt.
Yeah.
I play hurt.
The Vegas favorite, at least, is Denny Hamlin. He's won it 3 times, trying to become just the 3rd driver ever to be a 4-time or more champion. And he was perennially, he won it, like I said, 3 times and had 5 other top 5 finishes. And then since they've gone to the next-gen cars, which I will admit I'm not totally familiar with the difference between the next-gen and the old-gen, he has struggled massively in this race. How big of a difference was that switch of cars, and is it as simple as what I'm attributing it to, that for some reason a guy who dominated at this racetrack has not since the cars changed?
Yeah, there are a lot of differences. Also, the bodies change in these cars. So Toyota got a new body a few years back, and there's things that they have to learn to adjust to. But I think it's more for Denny, just wrong place at the wrong time kind of thing, because he's always in contention. I'll mark my words, he will be leading this race on Sunday. So will Bubba Wallace. There's just guys that are inherently good. They used to say, Dale Sr. said, you could see the air. Not everybody can, but the guys that can are always running up front.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking obviously about some of the great storylines, and there are just a ton of them. One of them, of course, William Byron going for the three-peat. I mean, first, only 28 years old. What would that mean for his legacy if he goes ahead and pulls this off?
It'd be incredible. I mean, to do something, I mean, how long this sport has been around now, 77 years. For him to do something that's never been done at such a young age, it would be huge for him. He's the all-American kid. He started with iRacing. He was one of those little computer geeks playing racing on his computer. His family had nothing to do with racing. He fell in love with it, told his dad this is what he wants to do, and he lands with Hendrick Motorsports, and he wins the Daytona 500 twice. This guy, he's like the most eligible bachelor. Ladies, I'm like, we need a Taylor Swift kind of thing. Sydney Sweeney, this is your guy. Come on.
Nick was one of those computer geeks.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Jay, we've been so locked into football for the whole football season, and then we switched over to NASCAR. And we've been researching and finding our favorite storyline stuff that echoes with us. And earlier in our production meeting, it's you know what? I'm just going to ask Jamie what she thinks are the best storylines that we should be covering. What's sort of not maybe A1, but what's interesting sort of in the weeds to your expertise.
You know, I love those open cars that aren't guaranteed, that are here with their whole team. They threw these teams together to try to make the Great American Race because of what it means. And we're going to have 4 bummed out teams going home after tonight's race. And I think those stories, there's so many, but one that really stands out is Corey Heim. This young man, what he's done last year in the Truck Series, I do play-by-play for that series, he won 12 races out of 25. Broke records every single week, and there was something else that he was adding to the record books, became the champion. Now he's running 12 races in the Cup Series. He was incredible last night, punched his ticket to his first Daytona 500. I'm telling you, that's a guy to watch for. Maybe call him a dark horse.
Well, that's interesting because obviously a lot of guys have come from the trucks to NASCAR. How big of a jump is that? How difficult is it to make that switch, or is it at all?
It's huge. I mean, you ask any drivers that have raced a truck, and they say they are the hardest things to drive around here. When you get in a Cup car, a little bit easier, just more comfortable, but the level of talent. I mean, from the first place all the way to the last place, those guys are tough. They're the best in the world, and they got here all different backgrounds, but a lot of them came through the Truck Series.
In the 67 runnings of this race, the 4 most lead changes, 2 of the 4 happened in the last 3 races. There were 52 in 2023. There were 55 last year. Is that just coincidental, or is there something that has happened over the last few years that has led to this race having more wrecks down the backstretch, seemingly a little more randomness, and all the lead changes at the end?
Yeah, well, there's all of those things go into it. I can guarantee we're going to see a lot of wrecks. It just happened. You'll see the big one. But something that's happened, this phenomenon, is fuel saving. And that's really what brings the pack together. And they run at lower speeds to save fuel. And you know, it's kind of controversial, but watching at home, you can't tell the difference if they're going 180 versus 200 miles an hour. But that's added to it. I mean, these teams are so smart. The level of engineering, people don't give NASCAR credit. They are at the level of F1 when it comes to engineers. They've got these war rooms back in North Carolina stacked full of engineers watching every single thing that's going on right here at the racetrack. They know, they figure it out, they find a way.
So that I want to follow up on that, because it seems like every sport we cover, particularly baseball and basketball, to a lesser degree football, has changed massively just in the last, forget 20 years, 10 years, because of analytics revolutions and the different knowledge and information people now have and the way they execute it. It seems like, and if you can expand on it, that has hit motorsports as much as any other sport, and NASCAR is obviously included in that, where strategies that maybe when you first started covering motorsports were not even considered are now mainstream, and if you are not implementing them, you risk being left behind. Do I have that right, and can you explain that further?
Yes, it's all about technology, what it's done from what the pit crews are doing, going over the walls. I mean, these guys have we've got professional players, guys that played in the NFL. We've got a Super Bowl winner that goes over the wall for one of these teams, because that's how the team has evolved. These teams have evolved. Back in the day, they had a cigarette in their mouth. They're going over the wall, changing tires. Things have come a long way, but with drivers, it's the simulation. These guys like Kevin Harvick, Clint Bowyer, they didn't come up in that era of sitting in a simulator and testing out different setups for your car and saying what you like and don't like. And you can come to the track, unload, and you're pretty much in the ballpark. It's a completely different thing. And if you're an older driver and you try to do that, I've heard so many of them, they get sick in a simulator.
Oh, wow.
It's a young man's sport when it comes to technology. And guys like Kyle Busch, they want to be in the seat. They want to feel the car in their butt. And not all these younger drivers have to do that necessarily.
Who would you say is going to be the fan favorite here on Sunday?
Gosh, there's so many stories. If Kyle Busch wins, this is the craziest thing, because he's been like the most hated driver.
Yeah.
And that's kind of switched over to more so Denny Hamlin. Kyle Busch, everybody's cheering for him. So I would say he'd be a sentimental favorite, maybe a fan favorite. I think if Brad Keselowski could win his first 500 with a broken leg would be incredible. And I just said people love to hate on Denny, but what he's been through in the offseason, lost his dad tragically in a house fire, the lawsuit, all the things that are now behind him, and losing the championship nonetheless, came so close to that. But I would say sentimental favorite, people would have to be happy to see him win it again.
Excellent. Well, Jamie, we're looking forward to the race. Thank you very much.
You're
Always
the best.
great seeing
It's a
you.
pleasure.
So good to
And
see you guys.
have a great, is this your 12th or 13th Daytona 500?
I don't know.
No way
I
to
think
tell.
It's my, it's my 20th year covering this sport.
Okay,
I started when I was
congratulations.
5, okay?
Jamie Little, thank you so much. This has been excellent so far. And Brew was right. It is a little windy here. We made fun of you for demanding a blanket in Florida, but you might be right. Joining us now,
brought a coat over.
one of the voices of NASCAR on Fox, and no stranger to this track, Clint Bowyer, 10 NASCAR Cup wins. You've been on this track 15 times. Again, I am not the expert. You are. In my limited research, you have finished this race upside down and on fire.
I was going to say, you started with expert, and then you went to the fact that I finished
To me, I just felt like that was a bad strategy. I just felt like it's a bad strategy.
in a Jack Daniels car.
Thank you for joining us. We're just talking about wrecks.
Yeah.
How much
Part
of
of
this race, early, late, middle, talk to me about, is just avoiding getting wrecked?
Well, attrition is everything. You're at a 500-mile race. I mean, first and foremost, that's a long time to be out there. A lot of moves, a lot of communication that can go right or wrong, right? That's the magic sauce that wins this race. Teamwork. This is a race that's unique in the sense that you need help. You can't go out and win this race carrying that only car on your shoulders, right? You have to go out there and work well with your teammates and get in the right position, and moreover, put those drivers in a situation where they have no choice but to push you to that win. So the chess match of Daytona is real in that sense.
So Kyle Busch, who we're going to talk to in a bit, yesterday said he thinks this might be 80% luck. And that struck me as, I'm curious. What's your take on that opinion?
Well, he hasn't won. This is 21 years for Kyle Busch and hasn't won the Daytona 500 yet. But best opportunity he's ever had with the RCR car, set it on the pole last night. So he will be leading this field to the green. Huge opportunity for him and Richard Childress, a shot in the arm for the team, much needed. But I agree. But the other aspect of that, saying there's a chance, baby.
Right.
20%'s better than none.
How much of we've had in the last decade, nobody who's led the most laps has won the race.
Yeah.
Wild just talking about that 3 times in the last decade. The only lap, the winner, the final lap was the only lap they led the entire race. It is something. Has there been something about the way this race is driven over the last 10 years that has added even more variance or randomness to a race that always had a fair degree of it?
Yeah, and that randomness changes year to year too, and season to season, and the car, right? This is a new design car. The Gen 7 car drafts much different than the old car did. So the same ingredients, the pieces of the puzzle change a little bit. Still need the teamwork that I've talked about. Still need the attrition be a part of it. Miss those, my gosh, those wrecks that happen. 90% of those aren't your fault. There is a few that have been my fault over the years that you've caused. Sorry, guys. That was my bad on me. A lot of money was just blown out the window. But, you know, you got to get all those put together. And as that race plays along and you go through these wrecks, you lose those teammates, you lose those opportunities, those pieces of your puzzle change, your dancing partner, if you will. Man, you show up to the dance and you had that date, but that date went to the bathroom and never came back. I got to get on the dance floor and find me another dancing partner. You know, that's real why this race is going down lap after lap after lap. The mistakes on pit road, you know, you lose track of all of those opportunities, the allies that help you win this race. So being able to adapt and figure it out on the fly, working with your spotter up there on the roof. He's literally right there behind us up there. He's your eye in the sky, right? And he has to help you guide the way. If he sees a line coming, this is a unique race in the sense that it's really not important what's out the windshield. Hopefully there's no cars in front of you out the windshield, right? But everything in the rearview mirror is very vitally important. You have to be able to block those runs, and that's where all these wrecks happen. You get all this energy, this momentum from 4, 5, 15 cars, whatever the case may be, pushing a line ahead, massive amounts of energy. You pull your old single hot rod over there and block that line. Yes, you needed to make that move to stay in the lead, but you've also stacked them all up and caused one of these massive wrecks like you see right there.
Yeah, and as we were watching the highlight earlier of your 07 finish, first of all, what in the world is going through your mind when something like that happens? And secondly, how do you bounce back for your next race or you know what I mean, and put a wreck out of your mind for your next race?
Well, you close your eyes first and foremost. Anybody that tells you they don't close their eyes when they're upside down is lying to you. That's the first thing you do. You know, when you get scared, just close your eyes for whatever reason. So you peek out every now and then. If you like what you see, go ahead and open them up. But at that moment, the funniest part about this story is Austin Dillon and Ty Dillon's dad. Mike Dillon was my spotter, one of the funniest human beings you've ever seen in your life. I'm sliding so long. I mean, if you look from the front stretch to where that wreck started off of 4, I mean, it's probably 400 yards down there. So I'm sliding on my roof forever, right? And he starts yelling at me, hold the brakes, because there was a car coming up that was going to hit me. But his nervous reaction was just to say, hold the brakes. And I'm like, what the hell's that got to do? The tires aren't even on the ground, you know? So it was a funny story when we got back of laughing at each other over that. But you just never know, guys. You have to put yourself in those situations. You have to go for it. It all comes down to positioning yourself on that last lap and doing, you know, the chess match of what I was talking about, of trying to situate yourself in front of somebody and put them, more importantly, in a situation where they don't have a choice but to push you.
We've got Coach Mangini on the show, and he helped us look at the football season, or at least me, in a different way, where I look at the football season from 17 games playoff.
That was sweet.
That was awesome.
Wow.
That was a test of the flyover.
American flex right there.
My goodness.
Okay. So 17 games in the playoffs, and he's like, you know what? As coaches and as players, we don't look at it like that. We break it down to 4 games at a time.
Yeah.
Who are we? These 4 games, do we need to change these 4 games? Second half of your 4 games. How do you look at this race? All the laps, do you break it down into segments, and what are you looking for in those segments?
It's a really good point, and this is why, in my opinion, this is our Super Bowl. It's unfortunately, you know, with this sport, it's not unfortunate, it's cool. The fact is, our Super Bowl is the first race out, right? Everybody's rusty, everybody's been sitting on the couch, everybody's doing things in the off season, trying to, because the off season, let's face it, it's very short. So everybody's rusty with this. You may have a new team. You may have a new spotter on the roof. That communication, all those things that are the winning secrets to this race.
But it's an odd mix to be rusty
now listen
for
to
your Super Bowl.
You go to that Super Bowl in those situations that, you know.
Patriots were.
Okay.
Sure looked like
Yeah, but they had to think about all these games and all this preparation. Think about if the football season started with the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
What that would look
it'd be
like.
crazy.
Yeah.
How would you, you cannot preview that. Who's going to win? I don't know.
Patriots
Let's see
lost
what
to
happens.
the Raiders in week
Their Super Bowl in week 1 were oddly similar.
That's why this race is so unpredictable and so hard to figure out and to, you know, make a guess, a guesstimate of who's going to win.
Even if you get through the whole race without being wrecked, you don't end up on your roof. How physically exhausting is driving the Daytona 500?
We have power steering, you know.
So no, I mean, it's an honest question.
It's hot. You know, the biggest thing is you're just mentally completely drained. There is so much happening, so many decisions made just this fast, right? You have to make them so fast, and they're so important. You're either going to end up wrecked or you're going to end up holding on to that lead, and those, it's not, there's never a timeout like you have in football. Yes, there's a caution, I guess that's kind of but when you're out there under green flag conditions, it is nonstop. It's not like first down, second down, third down. You know, you have breaks. And honestly, from my new perspective of calling these races in the booth, that's challenging. You know, I watch football games, and I'm almost jealous because you guys get a chance to take a break.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That down's down. All right, let's talk about the next setup. Read the defense. What are the offense looking like? What are we going to do for the next play? That's nonstop in NASCAR, and these teams are tasked, and you know, fuel mileage is a big part of this. Our track position and managing all those things. How are we going to set this up? You kind of run this race in reverse. And what I mean by that is you want to set yourself up for the next to last stop to get to the last stop to where you take as minimal fuel as possible, because that makes that pit stop faster. So you will gain track position, and you want to come out that last pit stop in the lead and hold on to it for dear life.
You keep mentioning the spotter on the roof. Take the driver out of it. Who is the most important person on the team race day?
Quick study, buddy. You're a very quick study.
Okay.
It's him. It's that spotter. If he's telling you the wrong information, that wrong line, the wrong timing of that, I said clear, not near. Buddy, I'm talking, I mean, it is so vitally important to be in, you know, in the front and winning that race and not. I mean, and not means wrecked, by the way. You know what I mean? It's his communication and the timing of that. When he tells you clear up, it can't be a decision of the timing of you look in the mirror and agree with his statement. You have to trust in his words and do it immediately. If you don't, you'll be wrecked.
Okay, final. We're leaning towards guys. Do you have a winner for this, or someone that you think we should keep our eye on? How about that?
I'm putting the pressure on you first. You're up. Who are you picking?
Go, KW. You can have him.
Well, I'm a Logano guy. I'll put Logano.
Connecticut's known for its race car drivers. That's what
he
everyone's always
has won the Daytona.
I know.
Well,
Logano is a solid pick.
I like Logano because he's been in first the last 9 Daytonas. He's like, I've been here. I think he was second in 2023.
So it's his time.
I like Logano.
I love it.
I'm sticking with Bubba Wallace right now.
Good one, man.
He's been good here.
I will be rooting for the Kyles. Larson or My pick is Ryan Blaney.
I feel like we're under attack.
Yeah, I know.
I don't want to be the other guys with their boys.
My pick is Ryan Blaney.
I love it.
He's come close a bunch of times. He's one of the favorites. He won the season championship a couple years ago. Seems like this would be fitting for his resume.
I'm going to choose a guy that you would think is the obvious because he's just come off of another championship, his second. It's going to be Kyle Larson, but it's not because he hasn't been able to piece together good restrictor plate races and drafting style races like Daytona. He's always there, though. I'm telling you, he's knocking on the door, going down the back chute of the Daytona 500. You look over, there's the 5 ball going for it. You cannot be in that scenario that many times and be denied. I think it's his time.
Awesome.
Wow.
That's
Love
a
it.
great pick.
Great Clint Bowyer.
Thank you,
Clint,
bro.
thank you so
Hey,
much.
go Chiefs. How about
Yes.
that?
Thank you, bro.
We got through the segment without talking about a team that didn't make the playoffs.
Oh, you know
That was
what?
my goal.
Oh.
That was my goal. It wasn't even really close, to be honest.
But hey, and look what happened. Look how
Exactly.
boring that was.
Exactly right.
Welcome back to a very special edition of First Things First, live from the Daytona 500 as we count down to the race 12:30 Sunday on Fox. I've got some fun facts. Would you like to hear one, bro?
I would.
200 miles per hour around this track. A football field per second.
Well, that is a fun fact.
Isn't that a fun fact?
Yeah.
Joining us now, who's not into fun facts, he's into beautiful prose and poetry of the sports world.
You're better
It's
than
the
that.
great. It's the you
better
are.
than that.
You
That is true, Tom.
frame everything in a
Very
beautiful
Hold on,
way.
hold on. If you're gonna needle
Not just fun facts
the
like I'm
great
out here giving you.
100-time Emmy winner Tom Rinaldi, I'm gonna give him a chance to needle you, KW.
About what?
Upset of the decade, Tom. As of this moment, Kevin Wildes is not picking the back-to-back champion to win again. How shocking is that?
I might, though.
You're right.
But right now, I'm bet Daniel Suarez. He was
wooed. Yes.
Holy cow! All right, Tom. We've had you on the show a few times. Only on the major events. We've invited you to the studio just to talk sports several times. You've said you're too busy. The major events.
How long is this expected to go on?
You're there for the big events only. Compare the Daytona 500 to some of the massive events in the entire world of sports.
Simplest true story that I could tell, and I've been doing this a while. Last night, driving from Orlando here, call my wife. It's 7:30 or so, and I just said to her, if I ever lose my sense of wonder, slap me upside the head, because when you drive past
Amazing.
the facade of this venue, especially at night, and you see the scale of it, it's, you know, one of the things I think that television struggles to do, it struggles to capture at times just how ferocious hitting is in the NFL. It struggles to capture the speed of hockey in real time. It struggles at times to capture the physicality of tennis in the modern game. And I think it struggles to capture motorsport at the biggest scale. And here, it's unbelievable. The thing I said to my wife, Kev, was, this is like 15 Rose Bowls.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's what it's like.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to do something better with the cameras, because they don't capture Wild's hairpiece either. It's just like these iconic things.
I mean, it does a decent job.
So how in researching for, you know, when we knew we were going to come here, almost every Daytona 500 preview or recap has capitalized proper noun the big one.
Yeah.
It's its own, it even has an official definition, a wreck that involves five or more cars. It is a specter that hangs over, you could say, all races in motorsports, but this race in particular. When you're talking to drivers, or maybe even more so when you're talking to drivers' families, how much does the specter of that potential and in some ways inevitable crash hang over everything?
I think it does, and in particular it does because of the meaning and the unpredictability of the final lap that we see happen time and time and time again in this particular race, because it becomes such, in a way, a crapshoot in that final lap. We so often see spectacular wrecks. We saw one we saw Denny Hamlin seem to be in a great position. Somebody roars back from 8th, of course, to then win back-to-back, and now trying to go for 3 in a row. All of those things that happen in that last lap, I think, build to the drama of it. I also think it's unique in sport in that it's the pinnacle event to start the season. Yeah. And I think that's remarkable. It's awesome. Maybe you could make the case the Kentucky Derby is the same, but obviously there are lead-ups to the Kentucky Derby to try to qualify for the 3-year-olds. Not here. I could never sell the event enough to people to come to try to see in person. And I do think Fox does an incredible job as be a company man here, but I mean it. The audio, all of the placement of the cameras to try to understand what it's like to draft at 189 miles an hour, all of it is just astounding. And as someone who's an interloper to motorsport, my jaw drops when I'm here.
Well, you mentioned Denny Hamlin. You sat down with him recently. He's going for his 4th title here at the 500.
Yep.
What would that mean to him?
So we sat down to Denny to talk about what is an almost impossible to characterize off season for him, right? He's part of 2311. We know what happens with the governing body being taken into court, the settlement that happens, a very bruising legal process for the sport. We know about that. We know how close he comes to the one thing he hasn't done in the sport at 45 years old, which is win the season-long title. His father, who was suffering from COPD, who he thought might not have that long to live, he wanted to win that for his father. He's in great position to do so with 3 laps to go. It doesn't work out. And then, most tragically, a house he buys for his parents in Stanley, North Carolina, goes up in flames. His father perishes in the fire. His mother survives the fire, but with very serious burns. We talked about what that's been like, and in particular, the fire the loss of his dad, the survivorship of his mom, who will be here as she begins to recover, to see him race now for the first time in person since it happened. And we're so grateful to Denny for being so open-hearted and sharing all that he did with us. You know, one thing that's unique here, and I thought he made this point really well. Brew, I know this will resonate with you. The sport finds you, let's just say, in basketball or in football, if you're great. The sport finds you. You can be great in this sport. No one will ever find you if you don't find the money to compete. And the fact that you're talking about a second and third mortgage, you're talking about 8 credit cards opened up and maxed out to the point where we could go bust week to week. That's the Dennis Hamlin and his mom, what they did to support him. That's a remarkable thing, and that's unique to this sport.
So that your full piece will be on Sunday. Coverage starts at 12:30. When you were looking around at other storylines, we've talked to Kyle Busch here. Obviously the three-peat we're going. What else hit your radar as something that really resonated with you?
I think, listen, we always love young phenom stories, right? But could a 19-year-old actually in his very first Daytona 500 win? I think that's pretty fascinating. I think it's pretty tough to beat the Busch story, right? It's also tragically the 25th anniversary of Dale crashing. So there's so much that's always wrapped up anytime we come here. There's an abundance of storylines. And again, one of the advantages of it being the first event of the season is those narratives are all ready to be valid. Every single one of them can come true because it's the start of the season.
So you mentioned a 19-year-old winning it. There's a 50-year-old trying to, who's one of, he's arguably a Mount Rushmore NASCAR driver, Jimmy Johnson. I always think back, and it's mixing metaphors a bit, Tom Watson. Gosh, I meant to look this up and I forgot. But
I was there right at Turnberry. I was there part of the telecast coverage when he was 59.
59 years old, thank you. He's the greatest. He's the greatest. But where it was, you're a lifetime exemption. You get to come play because you're a champion, but you can't win it. And then on the 72nd hole, it's like he could win it. And he obviously, came this close. I don't feel like Jimmy Johnson winning would be that level of stunner because he did come in third last year.
Exactly.
And there is a randomness element to it. But I also think, nobody's picking Jimmy Johnson, I don't think, or expecting. What do you think, the buzz about him being back here and his own expectations, if any, for this race?
I think you said it best. That the fact that he finished third a year ago takes away sort of the, oh my God, it's the Disney script, it's the rookie. First of all, he has the pedigree, which is nearly unmatched in the sport. Secondly, he's a brand name and Mount Rushmore guy. Third, he's done other things in other motorsports, which of course Fox is a part of as well. And then I think finally, I do think he's a guy that is beloved in the sport.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't know how much you know about Jimmy Johnson and sort of his physical regimen when he was at the peak of the sport, when he just decided in the midst of doing all this to become what I would consider to be, for somebody at his age, an elite marathon runner, which he did. There's so much about him which is fascinating. You can't count the guy out on anything. It would be remarkable. It would not be Tom Watson winning the Open Championship, but it would be pretty remarkable and pretty cool.
We know the big one, or the wreck, is a huge storyline here, but the average margin of victory is like 0.2 of a second, even less than that. So how big of a storyline is the photo finish?
Boy, I think it's amazing when you consider how tight that margin. Think about that. You're going to drive for this length of time across this distance in terms of mileage, and it comes down to something. But the other part of it, again, to go to the last lap and to go to the notion of most times in most sports. Now, maybe the Super Bowl was a counter argument to this. I'd love to get your take on it. Aggression is lauded.
Yeah.
It's rewarded. Here, aggression often works against you. It's the discipline to be cautious, pick your spot, bide your time, and then strike. I mean, listen, you can make the case in the playoffs, certainly in the Super Bowl, there was a lot of discipline that was practiced by Seattle.
Well, they knew New England would never be able to score.
Okay.
I mean, they had
All right.
seen
Any
up to that
action by
point.
New England.
Yeah, Seattle was like, I mean, these guys aren't going to be able to move the ball on
It was
us.
4th and 1. Like, Vrabel, let's just go for it.
I mean,
Just a little more aggressive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tom, thank you so much for joining us. Looking forward to your piece on Denny Hamlin, 12:30 Sunday on Fox. Last night, right here on FS1, Kyle Busch wins the
Pretty
pole.
good.
183.925 miles per hour. And
You won't round up for him? Let's call it 184.
you know what, Kyle? I'll call it 184. Everyone was happy for you, Kyle. You posted this on your social media. Your son was fired up. So that's great.
Awesome.
The dog is also happy. And then this morning, you hit a little dance to 50 Cent's Disco Inferno, which we couldn't hear. But at home, if you want to play Disco Inferno, it really adds to the drama. So congratulations on the pole. Feels like everybody's rooting for you. Tell us, we'll start with the pole. How does it feel to be the pole setter at Daytona 500?
Well, at least I qualified on the pole and I wasn't dancing on the pole. Okay?
Right.
So, all right, fair terms. Fair
That
terms.
was good.
But yeah, no, it's awesome, you know, because I've been coming down here for 21 years. I've never qualified on the pole for the Daytona 500. And when you come down here as a young guy, you're like, I got to qualify on the pole. I need that recognition. I need everybody to know my name and know who I am. And then when it doesn't happen, you kind of forget that that's even a thing, you know? So, but trust me, now I'm 40. People have told me plenty today that, hey, you're 40 and you're on the pole for the Daytona 500. I'm like, yeah, I got to show all these guys how to do this. Let's go, you know? So great race car last night. Everybody from RCR did a fantastic job building the speed in that zone Chevrolet to get us up front.
KW said everybody's rooting for you, and I think that is a fair sentiment. It is also, maybe, I don't know if Kyle Busch 15 years ago would have believed, hey, everybody's rooting for you.
Yeah,
like,
no.
It wasn't really kind of your
Rooting against me
persona,
15
right?
years ago.
Exactly. So how different is that for you, going from, in wrestling parlance, I guess, from like heel to face, which it
Right.
seems like has happened, you know, in a really cool way for you?
It has, you know, and it's kind of weird how it all transitioned. You know, I was with the M&M's team and Toyota and all those guys for a long, long time, at being Joe Gibbs Racing. And then when I joined over to Team Chevy with Richard Childress Racing, like, it was a little bit of a flip, you know, of fans like cheering for me again. And I'm like, this is kind of weird. Like, what happened, you know? But it feels great. You know, I love having Rowdy Nation and the fans on my side. And you're right, when you come down here, you hear a lot more like, man, this is your year. We're pulling for you. We want you to get this done, you know? So I wouldn't say that adds any added pressure to me to be able to go out there and do it. I've been running this race now for 20, 21 years. And so to me, you got to treat it. You got to treat it like those dogs where it's just another day.
Obviously, it's great to be on the pole, but we were talking earlier, and like, you know, the pole position winner hasn't won in like 25 years or so.
Right, you're right.
So how are you viewing that, you know, advantage, disadvantage? What makes it so tough to win from the pole here?
So years ago, back in the 80s, 90s, you know, teams would come down here. There was probably 5, 6, 8 drivers that could win the race. And then there was probably 6 or 8 teams that could win the race. And whoever was matched up, those were your favorites, right? Well, now when you come down here with the new next-gen race car that NASCAR has, everybody, they're all the same parts. They're all the same pieces. And so everybody, I feel like, has a chance to win this race. You'll drop the green flag, and there's going to be 30, 35 guys that you're looking and be like, I don't know who the favorite is. Any one of these guys could win this race. And so it a lot of times comes down to luck at the end of the show, where in the last 3 laps or last 5 laps, there's some chaos happening. Guys are pushing on each other. They're getting aggressive. They want to win the race, and accidents happen, right?
Yep.
And you got to make your way through that crash. And, you know, last year, I think William Byron came off of turn 2 on the final lap. He was in 10th place.
Yep.
And they all crashed in front of him, and he made it through, and he won the race. I mean, it just, you never know where you need to be. You just got to be that guy in the right place at the right time.
You've led 342 laps of this race. I mean, obviously, if you're leading, like, the flag drops and you go,
Yeah.
I think it'd be weird to be like, I'm going to win right now. I'm in first place. But when in your mind are you thinking, like, all right, I'm actually going to make a run to win this? How late in the race do you start thinking strategically about winning in a real way? I know you always are thinking about it.
You are. I mean, the strategy starts from lap 1. You know, there's going to be a lot of fuel saved. We talk about that a lot, where if you can save more fuel through a run, when you come to pit road, you have to put less fuel in the car so you can jump the guys that burned more fuel on that run prior to that, right? So when you come to the end of the race and the final stage of the race, if you're saving enough fuel and you've got really good mileage, that then you can put less fuel in your tank on that final pit stop, that leapfrogs you to the front. That's when you start realizing and recognizing where I'm at, having the track position, having the know-with-all to be able to go out there and put yourself up front to have a shot to win.
Can I ask you, sorry, Nick, real quick.
Go.
When you're getting close to the finish line, the pie chart of your brain, what percentage is don't let someone wreck me? I'm looking around. I do not want to have someone else end my race. And how much it is, I don't care. I'm doing like offense versus defense.
I think it kind of depends on where you're running. You know, like if you're leading the race, you're just solely focused on looking in the rearview mirror, looking behind you, trying to control the lanes, trying to keep because the energy in our race comes from behind. So when the guys behind come up to the car in front, it pushes that car out front. That's the draft. That's pushing the draft through and making the whole line of cars go faster. And so if you're back in traffic a little bit, like you're, say, in the middle lane, if there's 3 lanes and you're in the middle and you're 3 rows deep, you're looking all around you. Who's around me? Which guy's going to make the mistake? You know, where's the crash going to come from? And so a lot of times, you know, those things are all going through your mind.
So tonight's the duels.
Correct. The qualifying races.
Right.
Yeah.
But you and Chase know where you're starting.
We do.
So, apologies if this is a foolish question. What does tonight matter other than, you know, the downside risk of somebody screws up and now you're on a backup car? Like, have you thought about today, man, I'm going to just be a lap down and chill? like, how do you approach tonight when you know you're sitting the pole no matter what?
Correct. So that's a great point. So a lot of drivers or teams that do win the pole or win the front row locked in positions, they will sort of concede the qualifying races tonight. I feel like one thing that you should do, though, is you need to get in the mix a little bit. You need to kind of feel your car out in the draft, and whether you're leading the draft or whether you get behind a little bit, say 5th place or so, and you can feel what your car drives like in the draft, because when you come to 500 miles on Sunday, you don't want to be driving something that's all over the place. And it's too difficult to drive, you know? So there are handling characteristics that will take place on Sunday in 500 miles. So that's the added benefit. The other added benefit, too, though, is in the qualifying races tonight, it is technically sort of a stage in our racing. So in our racing, we have stages.
You get points.
And you get awarded points in those finishing positions. So 1 through 10 tonight will take home some points for the season-long point total. So we know how important those 1s or 2s or 3s of points can be when it comes down to the end of the season. You want to get some of those tonight.
Now, you Kyle, you've won 2 Cup Series titles. What is kind of bigger or more important, winning the Cup Series title or the Daytona 500, the Super Bowl as we've been calling it?
Depends on who you talk to. The guys that have won the championships and no Daytona 500 would say the championships are more important. The guys that have won the Daytona 500 and no championships would say the Daytona 500 is more important. So, but no, frankly, for me, like, I would say the championship is more important. That is your season long. That is you winning the Super Bowl. That is you taking home the Lombardi Trophy. And so, you know, like, this race to me is sort of like the AFC championship game, NFC championship game, right? So that's kind of how I look at it compared to the championship.
Nick, you're the poker player on the show, but I am also great at reading people. Maybe
Okay.
I am.
I don't
I'm
know.
very good at
Brew
it.
tricks you on the misdirection every time.
That's very
I think Kyle wants to win tonight.
What wants to win tonight?
Yeah, I think so.
And Sunday.
That's no. I just feel like it.
Trust me, if you told me that finishing last tonight would guarantee me
I
a
know,
win
but
on
I just,
Sunday,
I just feel like you want to. I feel like, you know what? Why don't I do this? Why don't I do this? Why don't I win the 3 times I'm out here? 1, 2, 3, win them all.
let's go. Hey, I'm that guy. Trust me.
I told you.
I'm always that guy. Yeah.
I told you that.
All right, so this is, you're obviously if you never race again, you walk into the Hall of Fame. You're one of the greatest racers of this era or any era. And a lot of, the all-time greats don't check every single box in their sports history.
Okay.
So no one would say your career was anything other than amazing, even if you never win the Daytona. But that said, it's the only thing you haven't done.
Right.
Do your career accomplishments being in Stone make it more freeing to run this race? Or has it somehow, how great of a career you've had, made it more pressurized going into this race?
You know, I feel for me that I can go into the Hall of Fame and be vindicated and validated by the rest of my success that I've had along my career. And this isn't a career-defining moment that gets me there, right? However, I'm a guy that loves to win. I'm a guy that loves to check boxes. I feel like I've done everything I could do here that there is to do. If I haven't, tell me what it is, because I want to figure out how to do it, right? And so that's the Daytona 500. That's a box that I have left to check, and I want to be able to win that one.
If I can just real quick. You said yesterday, and you've alluded to it here, the luck component in this race.
Yeah.
It also seems like while maybe that always existed, the last decade, that has been ramped up even more.
1000%, yes.
Where we have had so many, 3 guys won it, and that's the only lap they led. The last lap,
or the only race they've ever won.
Or the only race they've ever won. So as someone who's now run this race, this is your 3rd decade, I guess, running this race, it's your 21st.
Yeah.
What has changed from your first 5 Daytona 500s to your last 5 that has added even more variance to it?
I think the answer to that is the next gen race car.
Gotcha.
You know, so like back in the day, in the 80s and the 90s and even the 2000s, 2010s, teams, organizations were building their own cars. They had the manpower and the wherewithal of like, I want my body to look like this. I want my chassis to look like this, you know? And so they want more downforce or less drag or whatever at these different racetracks, right? Well, now we all have single source suppliers. So it's basically a Lego. Like we get the Lego, we all assemble the Lego. How do we assemble the Lego is how fast we make it go, right? So there are still those very, very tiny little minute details that go into our race cars that make them fast at super speedways or make them fast at short tracks or make them fast anywhere else. And so that's where some of the teams like us, RCR, we shine at the restrictor plate races. We love this stuff. This is where we feel like we've got the best opportunity to win, and it's our sport's biggest race coming here at the Daytona 500.
That was a great analogy because Nick still plays with Legos.
I don't play with Legos. I build Legos.
I don't know how you play with Legos. They break.
You have made a few NFL references. We know you're a big Broncos fan.
Yeah, buddy.
In Bo Nix, do you have your franchise quarterback for the next 10 years?
I believe so. You know who else I really, really love at the Broncos right now? Sean Payton.
Oh.
You got to.
I love Sean Payton.
Resurrected the
Absolutely.
franchise.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So love Sean Payton and what he's been able to come over there and what he's been able to do. I feel like if Bo Nix was in the earlier coaching staffs, maybe he isn't quite Bo Nix of what he is today. So I do feel like Bo is very good. He does a great job. He led the team very well this year. They won tons of games, and they were able to be so close to.
You probably feel like they beat the
He didn't know. He did not say that.
If Bo Nix were healthy, you
guys
guys crushed the Patriots, right?
He did not say that.
Well, let's ask him. Let's ask him.
He's
if Bo Nix
focused
were
on. Can I say
healthy,
something? He is focused on winning the Daytona
But it
500.
ain't even been close. I mean, it was close without him.
If Bo is in the game, they win against the Patriots.
Going
I mean,
away.
everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Right.
And
But
probably
everybody
make a
thinks,
much more
almost
competitive
one with
Super
Jared
Bowl.
Stidham.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jared Stidham was pretty good. I was told he was going to win.
All they needed to do was be ahead before the snew came, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Kyle, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Despite your bad read on Patriots Broncos, we're rooting for you and hope you pull this off.
Yeah, good luck, brother.
Thank you.
I love the Manning era all day long. I'll take them every day over them Patriot Brady's, okay?
Kyle, for the great Kyle Busch. More First Things First. Live from the Daytona 500 next. Welcome back to a very special edition of First Things First, live from the Daytona 500. This has been excellent so far, bro.
It's been outstanding.
It's just
Loving
been
it here.
great, and Nick's hair is in a nice little ponytail. It's beautiful.
It's windy.
It's fantastic.
I don't know what you want me to do.
His hair hasn't looked this good since he had highlights.
That's right. Joining us now is Daniel Suarez, 7 top 10 finishes, 2025 Cup Series,
Busch making his 9th Daytona 500 start, 7th place in 2023. Daniel, thank you for joining us. I want to start right away with something I've been interested in as we try to figure out the best strategy to win. Can you tell me your ideal plan for track position? I read a long quote. Sometimes you want to be in the front. Sometimes you want to be in the middle. You don't really want to be in the back. What's your general strategy on where you want to be?
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me. It's a true honor to be here with you guys. But listen, the Daytona 500 is like a marathon, you know, or like a race in a road bike. You know, you don't want to be up front cutting the air for everyone else for 500 miles. So, you know, you have to play the game. You have to play the strategy. What do I mean with that? You know, we're going to be coming to pit road for tires and fuel several times. And whoever puts the less amount of fuel is going to be more efficient and is going to jump everyone over. So the first half of every stint is going to be very important to be fast, but also to save some fuel. So how you do that? Well, if you're up front, you won't be able to do that. If you're in the very back, you won't be able to do that. So the best way to do that is kind of like towards the middle. So it's always a balance between how much fuel you're going to burn and track position to be able to jump some cars out in the second half of the stint.
Daniel, I joked with Wilds earlier because he's Joey Logano fan because they're both from
I'm sorry to
the
hear
same.
that.
They're both from the same part of the U.S. And I said, oh yeah, a lot of, you know, Connecticut, a hotbed of stock car racing. Because a lot of race car drivers are from geographically the same part of the country and same part of the world. You're the first and only, I believe, still person born in Mexico to win in a NASCAR Cup Series, or didn't win a NASCAR race. I'm curious about, you know, where in Monterey, the love of race car driving, how you fell in love with it, and how the sport is growing in your home country.
Yeah, listen. Before I answer that question, let me just tell you something very funny, because Joey Logano and I were good friends, and he told me something one day that actually it made me realize how fortunate I am. He said, Daniel, imagine that I have a state, a city behind me that support me, doesn't matter what, like yourself. He said, you have an entire country for you.
Yeah.
So I feel very blessed for that. You know, a lot of people in Mexico, you know, watch NASCAR because of myself. And to be able to represent not just Mexico but the entire Latin American community, for me is very personal and it's very special. Being today the only guy that can speak Spanish in the cup level, it's also very cool. Actually, I just came from doing an interview in Spanish. I'm the only guy that can do that. So it's very special for me to be in this position and to be able to represent my community in the sport of NASCAR.
That's unbelievable. How did you fall in love with the sport as a kid?
You know, when I was a little kid, I loved racing. I always loved cars as well. You know, my dad has a mechanic shop. So my love for cars started in the mechanic shop. But I remember watching the races on TV, and I used to be super passionate about NASCAR. You know, I remember having at 13 years old, I had an old Beetle, and I remember putting my favorite number on the taillight in the right rear and also in the right front, just like NASCAR. So to me, I always had this mentality, oh, look, just like NASCAR, oh, the big number on the door, just like NASCAR. So even though that when I was a little kid, I used to see NASCAR something super, super far away, I was always super fascinated with everything around NASCAR, and look at me now. Yeah. Here I am. So it's pretty funny how life works sometimes.
Since we're digging into your past, so your father-in-law, Nelson Piquet, 3-time Formula One world champion. When you first met him, was that intimidating because of that, or what was that like?
You know, it was a little bit intimidating for everything that he has done. But the funny part is that 90% of our conversation, believe it or not, it wasn't about racing. It was about cars. Because my background, also as I mentioned about my dad, you know, I grew up working on cars, building engines, transmissions, and things like that. And he did exactly the same thing. And it just happens by coincidence that he was actually on the same kind of cars, which he was in all Beetles and, you know, the air-cooled cars in Brazil called Fuscas. Yeah. Because I used to race those cars, and he used to race those cars back in the 60s or 70s. So we were talking about engines, and we were talking about the horsepower, the turbo. So you know, he's a legend, but also back in the day, the drivers had to have some knowledge about mechanics because the cars, they used to break a lot. Nowadays, we have so much technology, engineering that we drivers, we don't have to be as smart. We just go and that's it. But back then, the driver actually had to be a little bit of a mechanic to understand what was going on with the car.
You switch teams. I'm gonna read your own quote and ask for your reaction. Tell 97 I'm coming for him.
Hey, I hope they told him. No, listen, we were racing a couple weeks ago in Bowman Gray, the Madhouse, the class race, an exhibition race. It's very physical race. You know, everyone got, at least every single driver got one problem with someone else. and you know, that's part of racing, that's part of short track racing. So I got my share as well with the 97, with the 23, and with a couple other guys. But it's part of racing, you know, like the 97, he hit me a couple times, I hit him a couple times, and it's just a little bit of love. But you know what is the beautiful thing, and I was telling my wife this the other day, is that this is the beautiful thing about being a man, that we men, we fight each other, but the next day we're cool, we're drinking a beer, and we're all cool. So we're good.
What we've asked a few people, this is such a unique thing about this sport, having the biggest event be the first event. Obviously, the opposite of major American team sports and most team sports across the country. How much of your limited off season is actually relaxing, recuperating, and how much of it is in the back of your mind knowing, man, once I'm halfway done with my off-season, Daytona 500 is right around the corner?
You know, that's a great point because, you know, in October, November, first week of November, we're finishing our season, right? And I'm super fit, you know, I'm in shape, everything is good. November, actually, because I was changing teams, it was very busy for me, you know, having meetings and all these different things with my new team. But December, I tried to go to December. We went to Mexico, we went to Brazil with her family, and I was eating everything that was in front of me. So what happens is that by the end, right after Christmas, I have to start getting back in my game because, as you mentioned, the biggest race of the year is the second week of February. So I have to start getting back on my game, you know, with my workouts, with my food, my diet, everything that we have to do. So it's kind of like, you know, the way I think about it is like, okay, you can have fun for a few weeks, but then it's game time because, you know, February once you hit January, February comes like this, and you have to be ready.
But you mentioned working out, getting back in shape. You know, 30 years ago, and certainly before that, race car drivers were not known for physical fitness. I know that has changed somewhat over the last generation, but yours, like, how much of, I guess, your relative youth and your physical fitness is an advantage in a race like this?
So the way I look at it is that every single driver is going to start the race the same way, you know, fresh, ready. What happens is that we're going to be racing for 3 hours and a half. Yeah. So we're gonna lose fluids, we're gonna lose some weight, we're gonna get tired mentally, it's gonna get hot. Right now it's actually beautiful weather, but in the middle of the summer it gets very hot. And it's not how you start, but it's how you finish, right? And that's the part that is very important. You know, that's why I train, that's why I eat well, and I do all these different things, because the difference between now and 30, 40 years ago is that 30, 40 years ago, nobody was training, nobody was doing it, so everyone was on the same field. So all it takes is a couple guys to change the game and to be more fit and better than everyone else for you to start to catch up. So right now we're in a world where if you are not fit, if you don't eat well, if you are not mentally sharp, you're going to be in a disadvantage, not in the start of the race, but at the end of the race when it matters the most.
We talked about you being born in Mexico, but in 2024, you became a U.S. citizen. We're less than 120 days from the World Cup. So who are you rooting for?
Man, that's a tough question. I mean, already my heart, Mexico is in my heart, and it's going to be always in my heart. With that being said, my adult life has been here in the United States. You know, I've been here for 14 years now. Yeah. So I feel like the United States is my home. You know, when I go to Mexico, I feel like I'm going with my people, with my family, but it's not home anymore. You know, home is here. Yeah. So obviously Mexico and the United States are my teams. But then if you ask my wife, I have to root also for Brazil.
Yeah.
So I feel like I have.
Brazil. The answer's root for Brazil.
Right. That's a smart man right there. That's experience right there. So I have to be smart.
This will be your 9th Daytona 500. Outside of changes to the car, what have you learned? Do you stack something every race, put it in your brain? What have you learned from your first race or 5th race to now?
You know, to be able to win in Daytona, you have to be very experienced. You know, there is some of the best in the sport that they have never won this race. It's very difficult because it requires to put yourself in the right position, to have the car fast enough, and a little bit tiny of luck. So you have to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. That's why it's difficult to win this race. And I feel like right now I'm getting to a point in my life and in my career where I'm still very young, I'm very fit, and all these things, but I have the experience now. Now I have this to be able to apply on the racetrack, and that's what it takes to be able to win one of these beautiful trophies.
I have an announcement to make.
What's that?
You're moving up to number 1 in my picks and to win it.
There you go, number 1.
I'm making a change. A great Dale Suarez. Dale, thank you
so
Best
much.
of luck on Sunday. We'll be rooting for you.
Thank you.
More First Things First live from the Daytona 500 next. Yep. Dale, you're going to be number 1. Congratulations. Joining us now, a Daytona 500 champ, Austin Dillon, won in 2018. He's got 4 top 10 finishes here and 85 top 10 finishes in the Cup Series. And Austin, I want to welcome you to the show and also welcome you back. I don't know if you remember, but you were a guest on the show before Brew and I, and before Nick had hair.
Man, we were looking good that day.
I know, man. That's what I'm saying.
I think we look styling right there.
See, these guys, I keep trying to get these guys to make shave your head bets.
No, it's not a good
Because
look.
I know, no, please. I know how good I look with a shaved head. These guys are afraid to do
I
it.
don't know. It's good for the drafting.
I guess that's what Joey Logano's going with this year. You know?
You're one of the few racers out there who's already won this thing, Austin. Is that a huge advantage, or is it like, you know what, I'm just like any other guy out there?
Man, it's awesome when you come through the tunnel here and you feel like you've won this race. It gives you confidence. You get excited. Every opportunity that you get to come and run a Daytona 500, let alone win it, is enough for me. I'm excited to get here and try to be a 2-time.
Well, so that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, there have been 13 in the history, NASCAR history, 2-time Daytona 500 champions. Winning that race 8 years ago elevated you within the sport, and your name being a multi-time champion puts you in a totally different class. How much of that has been bouncing around your head, not just this week, but this week for each of the last 7 years ever since you won it?
Well, I was really close in, I think, 21 or 22. I finished 3rd, and you know, it's right there. And I don't know what it is about Daytona. It's a storyline place, man. I mean, Kyle Busch set the pole last night. He's been trying to do this for 20 years to win a Daytona 500. And, you know, you just try and figure out ways to put yourself in a good position and be there in the last lap, and you never know what can happen here at Daytona.
Your grandfather's Richard Childress. I mean, does that put pressure on you, extra pressure to win each week you're out there?
I definitely, you know, when I won it in 18, I felt like, okay, maybe, you know, that's enough. But you know, he is such a stalwart in the garage. He's always going to be on top of the trailer, pushing us as a team to go out there and deliver. And I respect him so much for that. He's a hero of our sport, and one of the only owners, like I said, that's always here every single weekend, day in, day out at the shop. You know, he makes you elevate your game because you know he's always consistent.
You've got, well, I'm going to read the stats so I don't get it wrong. Among active drivers with 20 starts, you're tied with the best average finish.
Okay.
So you're just consistent. Are you running this race to be consistent, or you're like, you know what, I've always kind of been there, I'm going to switch it up this time and kind of go for broke?
Yeah. You know, I think you have to have a mindset one way or the other. You got to pick it before the race starts. It's are we going to get to the end of this thing, or are we going to be aggressive the whole time?
So you pick that before. It's not like, well, I'm going to see how it plays out
you
halfway through make a call.
You kind of need to feel out the pack, really. And if you're in situations that you know you're not supposed to be in, which we all have those intuitions at times in life, it's just like that in a race car, man. When you see a guy out there and he looks squirrely, he's moving around too much, car ain't handling good, I probably don't need to be in this position very long. I need to move, change my spot, get behind someone else, or get to the front. And you have to make those moves pretty early. And I can tell you the regrettable things are me just staying in that position a little too long or not taking the hole that I had that would have got me clear of a wreck. So your mind's always thinking like that in a chess move. It's always one move ahead, and you're trying to put yourself in good positions.
I'm super fascinated by the concept of teamwork in motorsports where, and I don't mean the guys working on your pit crew and your spotter, I mean the guys Richard Childress Racing team, where you guys want to help each other, but you're also competing with each other. So can you, for a novice like me, can you explain how you thread the needle of you're going to need each other over the course of a race like this, but then at some point it becomes a little prisoner's dilemma and you got to be every man for themselves?
Yeah, well, from an organizational standpoint, everybody in this garage is so good. And when you have these teams that have 4 guys on one team, 3 guys, whatever it may be, you have to take, we're a 2-car team right now, myself and Kyle Busch. And we have to be tighter than that group of 4 when it comes down to it so we can beat them. I mean, the knowledge that we gain week in and week out from each other is really important. So if I am having a bad weekend and he's having a good weekend, we can pull from that and try and elevate our team. And one of us has got to win. That's our goal every weekend. We want to put one of our CR cars in victory lane.
During the break, we were talking about football and basketball. So you're into sports.
I love sports.
And you played baseball. Went to the 2002 Little League World Series. So how'd you end up choosing racing over baseball?
Well, it's pretty simple. I stopped growing, and everybody's the same size in a race car, man. So this was the path for me, and I've enjoyed it. But, man, I want to be up here with you guys. I love talking sports. It's my favorite thing to do. I love competition, teamwork, whatever it may be.
Well, let's ask you. You're in Charlotte. You're a Carolina fan, Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young, he's improving. Rookie year, it looked like he's not our guy. Do you think now he is the franchise quarterback for the next decade?
Man, I think so. I think Dave Canales and him have a good vibe together. I think the offensive line is super important. They've done a good job keeping those guys together. I'm buddies with Taylor Moten. I want to give him a shout out, our right tackle. But, you know, we're building. And I think, who was it, Tet this year? He had a huge year, and that was a big piece to the puzzle, I think. Someone that he could consistently go to when he needed. And the run game, man, you got to keep that run game. I think Rico's not coming back. I don't know what's going on. I want another running back like Chuba. We need another running back that can come in there. That two-headed monster seems to work in the NFL. You can see it with the Lions, with Gibbs and Montgomery, and it was big for the Panthers this year, I feel like.
I've got 2 boys, and they're brothers, obviously. And I try to, like, you know, if I do get one gets one thing, the other, you know, it's very important. You and your brother are racing. And when you talked about teammates, it's like, well, it's me and Kyle. Meanwhile, you might be lined up with your
when it gets down to it, there's a little bit different when it comes to blood. You know what I mean?
So how's that play? You got Kyle. If you had Kyle and Ty, what's going on? What's going through your mind?
Yeah, you know, try not to piss off mom. And biggest thing is that when it gets down to when you have the choice, you better choose yourself and get the 3-car into victory lane. When it comes down to being that tight at the end, you got to make a split decision. But either way, if we can get Kyle Busch, my brother, myself, I'm happy with all 3 of those choices.
3-car, obviously, NASCAR history, the most iconic number. I know this is old hat for you, but this is obviously a special track and the 25th anniversary, of the tragic passing of Dale Earnhardt Jr. or Dale Earnhardt, pardon me, Sr. When you took on the 3-car, what went into that, and how much? I don't know if for you that's just something that's you know dealt with the pros and cons of that then and now moved past it, or every time you come out here, does that rattle around in your brain a bit?
I think so. I think every time you come here, the history of the number 3 and what Dale Earnhardt Sr. was able to accomplish. I was here when he won the Daytona 500 in '98. I got to go to victory lane and do the hat dance. and be a part of that and understand the celebration, how happy people were. And on the flip, when we lost Dale, I was at home and I saw when everybody came to the shop and laid flowers over the museum, and just the impact that he had as a human being over this sport and the families and the fans of this sport. And that is legendary. And I'm so thankful that I've been able to drive this number 3 and add victories to it and get the chance Sunday to go do it again.
I don't want to have you leave on what is a touching, but, you know, a sad note. So can I ask you a bit about bull riding real quick?
Hey, let's do it, man.
All right, so you own a team, or general manager of a team?
So my grandfather's the owner. I'm the GM. And the Carolina Cowboys.
The Carolina Cowboys, professional bull riding. Have you ever ridden a bull? And what is how does the physicality of that sport compare to the physicality of your sport?
There's no shot that Austin Dillon is ever going to get on a bull. I'll stick to the full roll cage, helmet, all that. I love bull riding. It's an amazing sport. If you guys, I'd love to invite you out. PBR teams is a new sport. We're 4 years in. The Carolina Cowboys we won the championship last year in Vegas, took home the title. We got the buckle here this weekend. We're doing a buckle tour. But, man, it is so cool watching those guys fight 2,000-pound bulls and try and stay on them for 8 seconds. And there's a lot of stats in it, man. We got bulls that turn left and bulls that turn right. We got right-handed riders and left-handed riders. And there's a percentage difference between going into your hand and away from your hand. So as a GM, I'm always looking for the best riders to fit the lineup. And we've got coaches, trainers, everything, man. You guys got to check out PBR teams.
I'm into it.
And you said it's in Vegas? Oh, we get a bull riding in Vegas. What do you mean?
He's just trying to get to Vegas.
I got you.
From talking, listen, Austin's been on the show a couple times. I know a little bit about him. He and I might have a good time in Vegas together.
Okay.
We'll get you a nice cowboy hat. We'll get you a resist-off cowboy hat, some boots.
All right, well, best of luck.
Good luck,
on
bro.
Sunday.
Thank you,
Good luck to the
Thanks for coming. Enjoy it.
Tune into First Things First for all the Hornets coverage.
I
Hornets
will.
coverage.
Let's go Hornets.
More First Things First live from the Daytona 500 next. Live from the Daytona 500. It's the show that has increased the amount of guests on the show and the amount of official / non-official race car drivers, just because he drives fast to work and now is fond of wearing a helmet. I'm Kevin Wilds alongside Chris Broussard and a helmeted Nick Wright, who just got tips from Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano, who have joined the program last night. We're going to jump right into it. The first duel, very good for Team Penske. Joey, you win it. Ryan, teammates come in second, and you guys are now here with us. Quick bio. Joey, 2015 Daytona 500 winner, one of the NASCAR 75 greatest drivers, 3-time Cup Series champ. Meanwhile, Ryan, 2023 NASCAR Cup Series champ, 17 wins and second place, and a lot of very close calls for Ryan Blaney. That's why we're pulling for you now. So welcome, fellas. I'm sorry for my co-host's helmeted introduction.
I got to tell you something, KW.
Go for it.
Unlike yesterday, I couldn't hear a damn thing you said because of the helmet and this. And I also, when I agreed to do this, thought we were going to have about 5 minutes before two of the best drivers in the world sat down, and I could be a clown not in front of these guys. But now, I think I just got to stick with it. Let's go.
First of all, thank you guys for coming. Congratulations on the duel last night. Joey, that was the first duel was a little bit messy. And Joey, I'll use your quote. The Daytona 500 could be a total wreck fest.
It can be.
So why do you think the cars are just loose, or what's the deal?
It just seemed like the cars were, really out of control yesterday. In the draft, the way you move lanes forward is you physically push each other, bumper to bumper, push each other down the straightaways. And when you start doing that, the cars get a little unsettled. They don't like it too much. So, do you want to go fast? Well, if you want to go fast, it's going to come with a little bit of risk. And so, today we have some practice to try to work on our cars. I think everyone's going to try to make that a little bit better, which may help. But when you get to the end of it, in the Great American Race, there's going to be a lot of pushing and shoving, and it can turn into something a lot to what we've seen in the first duel.
Ryan, so just so you know, sorry, Joey, you're my pick. I said that yesterday. You feel due-ish. However, I don't know how much of this specific race is, I don't want to say dumb luck, but luck. How much of winning this race is raw skill and how much of it is right place, right time, given, particularly the last decade, how the race has been run?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, you have to prepare the best you can. You have to do the best you can throughout the 400, 450 miles leading up to the end to position yourself in it. And that's a lot of skill that's involved. And I think in anything, there is good fortune, no matter what it is. You know, and in our sport, good fortune is, hey, I missed this wreck by an inch, you know, that wadded up 20 guys, but it kind of cleared the path for me. A lot of wreck avoidance is skill, but some of them you just get wadded up in. And Joey and I have both been in those situations where there's nothing you can do and you just end up on the tow truck. But I think it's majority skill, and you're going to need a little bit of good fortune, though, I think, at the end of it.
As teammates, how much are you guys actually helping each other versus trying to win for yourself?
That's what makes NASCAR so unique, is that we're teammates, but you also, you know, you're competing against each other. It makes it a challenging relationship, and for us, luckily, you know, Ryan and I have worked together for a long time. We've been through the good and the bad, right? And we've been able to work on that relationship. And I feel like we've got this equal understanding of how do we ultimately get ourselves to the start-finish line and one of us win, right? I think it's important because, you know, we have the same boss. The same people are building both of our cars. We need to be on the same team, especially when you come to racetracks like this. And I think we showed a great example last night, right? And, you know, I was a beneficiary of it last night. Thank you. But it can be roles reversed on Sunday, right? And then it can very much be that way too. So it's just that we know we're stronger together than we are alone, and I think that's something that really helps us on the racetrack.
Is it ever, I want to follow up, is it fairly common for teammates not to have that working relationship and just, hey, I'm trying to get mine, or does that not really exist?
I think that's pretty common. Each team's a little bit different, but I feel like at our group, we understand that the 400 employees that we have that build our cars and watch us every week, they don't care which one of us wins. They just want one of our cars to win, and we want that company to be successful. We want Roger Penske to win the Daytona 500. Yes, you want to do the best for yourself, and you're going to do everything you can to do that, but the best thing that can happen is just he and I decide who it is against the teammates, you know, and one of us win the race, and we're going to do everything we can to do that. And we're not going to put each other in jeopardy, but there are some drivers out there that probably are kind of lone wolf by themselves, and that's just personal preference. But we've always made it a big priority in our building to work as one as much as we can.
I went back and watched the 2017 finish, and it was like, I think, Joey, you're pushing Ryan. It's like, oh, here comes the 21 car, and you come flying for a second. But you weren't teammates at that point? It was just like out of the kindness of your own heart?
Semi-teammates.
I don't remember much of that race. I remember parts and pieces of it. And I mean, to Ryan's point, like, all you can do is, yeah, there we go. There's the race. Okay.
Do you remember it now?
This is when everyone's running out of gas.
Ryan comes flying.
Yes.
The announcer's like, here comes the 21. I'm like, yeah.
Yes. Now I remember. But I mean, like, to Ryan's point earlier, you got to put yourself up front and put yourself in position to get lucky.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you don't just get lucky. You got to be close enough to the front when things happen, you can capitalize on that. And I think that's what, you know, we've been trying to do that for a long time. Yeah, there we go. We're going to the front right there, Ryan. And but yeah, I mean, that's kind of the goal, is just to be, you know, see the front. Yeah. On that last lap, you have a chance.
I have a question for each of you separately, kind of about your own personal stories. So I'm gonna start with you, Ryan. My dad was a firefighter for 40 years. And that firefighting is one of the industries that is, for a lot of people, a family business. It's a lot of grandfathers, fathers, uncles. And I think some of his friends and colleagues were a little surprised when it was clear I was never going to be that. I don't know if there's a bigger family business than race car driving. So many of the stories are like yours, that, you know, you have, you know, a lineage of race car drivers. So I set that up to ask this. Is this the only job you ever thought you would have? And can you remember a time as a child when you ever were like, nah, maybe I won't race cars for a living?
Yeah, I mean, growing up around it, my dad was a dirt racer from the 80s, 90s, moved to NASCAR in the late 90s. I was born in 93, so I was born into this racing world, and I was just in awe of not only my dad, but all the guys that are out there competing. and it's all I ever wanted to do. I don't think there was ever a point, as long as I was allowed to do it, that I wanted to do anything else. Like, I just wanted to be these guys. I wanted to do what my dad did. And my dad never pushed me to do anything. My dad was always, are you sure you want to take this next step? Are you sure this is what you want to do? And my answer was yes every single time. So it is a very family sport, just because it's kind of a niche sport to get into. But once you're in it, you fall in love with it. So I was fortunate to grow up, around it and see it firsthand. So my only other job that I've ever gotten paid for, besides racing, was sweeping my dad's shop floors. I was a hell of a janitor growing up, cleaning toilets, sweeping floors, and my dad would give me $10. Other than that, it was always racing, so I've been pretty lucky. Yeah.
And Joey, to you, your story is one of like a young phenom who, I think it's fair to say, has incredible hype going into his career, and one of the few athletes that reached that hype. That, it's not like, you're a 3-time champion, you've won this race. So I assume now you are established. I know you're established. Early in your career, how much did that weigh on you? How much pressure was there on you as a young racer of what people expect me to become before you had won the Daytona, before you had won a series championship?
Yeah, it's a tricky place for a young kid to grow up in, right? To have all that hype. It can affect you in a lot of different ways, and unfortunately, mainly bad ways, right? Because I think you start to drink your own Kool-Aid, if you will, right? You start to believe in all the hype, and you start to just think you're that great, and you don't go to work like you're supposed to, or you start to get a little arrogant, right? And then you see that with many athletes, with young athletes coming up, and and then you get the slice of humble pie. Right? At some point, reality's going to slap you in the face. And that happened for me, right? I was to your point, I was a young phenom growing up from the age of 12. Like, everyone was talking about, when I get to Cup, when it's going to happen. And when I got to the Cup level, the NASCAR top level here, I got the slice of humble pie that I deserved, right? I went up against all the guys that were the phenoms, right? Growing up, now they're all here. And I got my butt kicked for, 3 years before I was able to get my head wrapped around things. But in those moments, I learned so much about myself. But I got beat down, right? I had to learn to lose, right? It's something and it's important to know how to do, right? Because you got to be able to learn from each mistake you make and try to somehow rebuild some confidence, keep your team rallied behind you. As an 18-year-old kid, rallying a bunch of grown men around you to support that, that's hard to do. If I'm being honest, I failed at that, right? I lost my job. I was at a point that I was like, well, what am I going to do the rest of my life? I'm 21 years old, and I don't know if I'm going to make it. And I had the amazing opportunity of driving the number 22 for Shell and Pennzoil and Roger Penske 12, 13 years ago. That happened. And I've been driving the same car ever since. But that moment is what taught me, okay, I got to go to work. I'm not that good. I remember I'm not that good of a race car driver. Now I know that. And I can work on being better at least.
That's great.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys very much. Best of luck on Sunday. You're going Blaney.
Yeah.
I might be a Logano guy.
You've been saying
a Logano guy.
I'm right here. I'm right here. Please lie to me.
I've decided to become a Logano guy. I was a Logano guy yesterday.
They will start 3 and 5 Sunday at 12:30 on Fox, the Great American Race. Chase Elliott is coming up next. Thank you guys. Best of luck on Sunday.
Thank you guys.
Good luck. Thank you. Welcome back to just an amazing episode of First Things First, live from the Daytona 500 as we count down the hours to the 68th running of the Great American Race. Joining us now, he won last night's second duel, will start 4th on Sunday in the number 9 Chevy. It's Chase Elliott. Chase, thank you for joining us. Second place in 2021. This is the 3rd duel you won. And I thought you were funny in your post-race interview. I'll quote you here. I've won this one before. This isn't the one I won. It said you wanted to, quote, cautiously enjoy the duel victory. So congratulations on the duel. Is momentum a thing? Can you keep that going into Sunday?
Yeah, it's one of those things, like I said, we have won that race before. So it's like, man, it's a great start to your week. It's one of those things where anytime you're on track, a win at Daytona, always great. Nice to get a good pit stall selection for the big race on Sunday. So, that's one of those things that you can carry with you for sure, but it's really hard to carry momentum. So much can happen in the event, but like I said, the whole premise of last night was just, hey, we got that good pit stall selection. We got a good box for Sunday. That's something you're going to keep all day long. Odds are you're probably not going to keep your track position for the entire 500 miles. Something's going to go wrong at some point. So, but a great start to the week for sure. And got some work to do, but we'll see how it works out tomorrow.
I have a potentially awkward question, which is, why are you so popular? If people don't know, you've won 8 straight most popular driver awards. That seems almost impossible. I mean, you seem like a very likable guy, but to win it every year this decade, why do you think the fans love you as much as they do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I ask myself that some days myself. But, you know, look, I think for me, if you followed the history of racing at all, my family has had a huge stance in the sport for a long time.
Your dad won the award a bunch too, right?
He did. Yeah. He did. And you know, I've always tried to make sure that it's, from my position, it's such a reflection of them, right? Like, you know, my dad and my uncles and my grandfather, you know, they have put so much time into this sport, and I think that they were just a really easy group of guys for fans to like over the years, and they had a lot of success. They kind of did it their way, and people loved that. And I think for me, I came into a situation that was advantageous because of the road that they have paved, and I've always tried to make sure that that reflection is really about them and the heritage more so than it is about me. And I'll always feel that way, you know, no matter whether I win the award or not win the award. You know, I'm proud to kind of carry that legacy forward and try to do it to the best of my ability and how I think they would want me to do it as well.
Your dad, Bill Elliott, won this race twice. So what advice has he given you about this particular race?
Man, you know, it's changed so much. Yeah. You know, Dad won it, I think, in 85 and 87, right? And you think about how much has changed in the world since 2000, much less, you know, since the 80s. Right. And heck, I wasn't even alive, you know, and for either one of those wins. But so a lot has changed, and truthfully, I think from his perspective nowadays, it's more just about being dad and just being supportive. And, you know, the racing side is just, man, it's evolved. And the style of racing is a little different today, but he watches, you know, he keeps up. Obviously, he wants us to do well, but I think he's more in dad mode today than he is telling you how to do things or coaching, to your point.
Last 9 races, 30%, 38% of the drivers didn't finish. And we know that a certain amount of good fortune, bad fortune plays a real part in who gets across the finish line first, or if you end up on a tow truck. What is your relationship with luck, chance? How does it not stress you out? How do you not say, oh, you know, we watch football games, a guy misses a field goal, the whole team loses their mind, but it feels like every driver we've spoken to is pretty even keel about the element of luck in the race.
Well, I think the big thing is it doesn't do you a lot of good to worry about it, number one. But, you know, motorsports is just a little different. You know, it's just a little different than other sports, and particularly this race. I mean, there are so many things that are out of our hands throughout this event. We're obviously in close proximity to other drivers and cars throughout the race. Really easy to make mistakes. And that's just what the Daytona 500 is. You know, it is so much up in the air, and a lot of things can happen. And from our perspective, and I've been doing this long enough now to A, understand that, but B, just put emphasis on the things that we can control. You know, that there's a lot of things out of your hands, but there are some things that are in your control, and getting a good pit selection, that's something that we can help ourselves with, right? You're just trying to make, you know, you get presented information throughout the day and throughout the week, and you just try to take that information, process it, and help your team make the best educated decision of a guess at that time. And look, you're going to have things go your way to win this race. There's no doubt about that. We know that. We've been close before. We've never gotten over the hump. You know, certainly hope we get our turn one day, and we'd love it to be this time.
Chase. That's not just racing. That's life advice.
So 20-some years ago, Sports Illustrated did like a Future Stars thing where they picked a handful of 13-year-olds. One of them was Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, who ended up being the 2nd pick of the NBA draft. One of them was Jordan Spieth, and one of them was you. I'm just curious, 13-year-old Chase Elliott, when Sports Illustrated like stamps you as like, you're going to be the next big thing. Obviously, good call by them. It worked out. But how does Chase Elliott walk into junior high that week? Like with the copy of SI, like how does that play out in the cafeteria?
Yeah, it's one of those things you have to be really careful with, because it's okay if it works out, but boy, if it doesn't, that could be a big problem. So, no, that's not me. That's not how I operate, or how I like to operate at least. But a really amazing thing, and I remember it. I mean, I remember doing the photo shoot. You know, it's been a while back now, and we're all getting a little older. But I remember doing it, and you know, hearing about Jordan Spieth, and I've never met Jordan, but obviously I've watched his career unfold and becoming a Masters champion and all those things, and so really neat that, you know, that it worked out like it did. So I guess I don't know who was making that call or who was making those decisions, but hey, I'm glad they were right.
All right, well, thank you very much. We know you got to get to practice. Best of luck on Sunday. We're all rooting for you.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate y'all hanging out with us.
Yeah. Welcome back to just the best episode of First Things First we've done, especially since our post-Super Bowl episode was brutal. Actually, that's a highlight.
That was fun.
That was a rough one.
Speaking of the Super Bowl brew, did you see the little twinkle in Wild's eye when he was like, wait, you can change the rules on how you crown a champion?
Okay.
Maybe NASCAR's on to something.
68th running of the Great American Race, Sunday, 12:30 on Fox. It's a place where legacies are made. To find out who has the most to gain is a segment Nick likes to do called Most to Gain.
Get right to it. 8 people with the most to gain. And this Sunday's Daytona 500 live on Fox. Number 8, Wild's pick, Joey Logano. He's a one-time winner. He would become the 14th man ever to win this race twice. He also has 3 Cup Series championships already. Last time he won a duel, he came in second. So, you know, came close that time. Number 7, my pick, Ryan Blaney. He's never won, but he has 2 seconds, a 4th, 3 other top 10s. He's the Cup Series champion from a couple years ago. He would stamp this ticket by winning this race. Number 6, us, and we've already won. I just want to, Wild loves to say, we love sport.
Yeah, sport.
And I got to tell you, no better indicator than how amazing this has been for all of us. To be out here with the legends of the sport, kind of parachute in and just absolutely fall in love with it.
Can I just have a quick caveat in Most to Gain? You realize why it's an iconic American and worldwide sports event. It's just, you can feel it if you're here. So come on down, hop on a plane. You can still be here.
You can still be here.
12:30 on Sunday.
Number 5, Brew, your guy, Bubba Wallace.
Right.
The first ever Daytona he raced in, he finished second. He was 36 1,000th of a second from a win in 2022. He's been so close. Can he finally get it? Number 4, Kyle Larson. Part of Hendrick Motorsports team. It's the only crown jewel race he hasn't won. Reminds me a little bit of Alex Palou going into the last year's Indy 500. Has won championships, season-long championships, but hadn't stamped himself in that race. He's actually never finished better than 7th. Number 3, Denny Hamlin. Would be a 4-time champion, joining Carl Yarborough and Richard Petty. He already has 8 top 5s. He should have won for his first season-long championship last year. Denny Hamlin. Number 2, William Byron, going for a 3-peat. No 3-peats ever. The closest was Denny Hamlin when he came in 5th 5 years ago. He would be the 7th ever 3-time Daytona 500 champion. And number 1, guest of First Things First, Kyle Busch.
Yeah.
It's the only thing missing. And to never win and then go win the pole and win the 500. No one's done that, by the way, since 2000. It would be his final crown jewel race and would complete a first ballot Hall of Fame career, Brew.
Yeah, I'm going to add Brad Keselowski, who also, like the 2 Kyles, is going for the Grand Slam, the 4th crown jewel race. And to do it on a broken leg, or a leg he broke less than 2 months ago. He said that about a month ago, he was wondering if he'd ever walk again. And so if he could win this race, that'd be fantastic.
Well, it's a great pick. You can't get fresh tires without going into the pit. It's time for Most to Lose.
So here's the thing. We've had such a good time. I've liked all the drivers.
Yes.
I didn't even really want to do Most to Lose. But you guys said,
really,
you do one, you have to do the other list.
It's your favorite thing on this show.
Number 3. Most to lose Sunday. Chicago Bull Michael Jordan. Wait, why?
Why is that?
Well, I don't know. Did you see LeBron James last night? And what about LeBron? Did he look awful spry?
What does that happen?
Well, what else happens on Sunday? The NBA All-Star game. What if he wins All-Star MVP at age 41? Okay, you don't like that? What about this? Basketball owner Michael Jordan.
Now this one I can see. This
I mean,
one makes sense.
oh, how can you expect? Exactly, since he sold the team. Meanwhile, he's looking across the racetrack. He's like, wow, Joe Gibbs changed sports, owns a team's doing pretty well. And number one, most to lose.
I'm gonna guess.
Yeah.
It's not Michael Jordan, is it?
NASCAR owner Michael Jordan.
I knew that was
I didn't
coming.
see it coming.
You know who he co-owns the team with? Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin's the favorite to win the race, but not for Michael's team. Michael's team's way back in the 20s. Denny Hamlin, meanwhile, might win it. So, most to lose. I'm as shocked as you guys that this is what ended up happening.
Okay. All right.
Not shocked at all.
We've got 60 more seconds.
Official picks.
Official picks, bro.
You know what? I was going to change, but just because of the most to lose, Bubba Wallace, who runs for 2311 Jordan's team, if he wins it, Jordan moves to most of the games.
I'm sticking with Joey Logano. I flirted with a few other drivers. I'm sticking with Logano. He's had led the race at least for a little while in every 9 of the last Daytona 500s. Now he just has to lead at the end. He's been very close. I think he gets it done, wins his second Daytona.
Ryan Blaney. He has 7 top 10s. He has 4 top 5s. He has 2 seconds. He's never won it.
Good.
He's a series champion. He was a great guess. Oh, yeah,
go.
teammates, exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bruce. Yeah, we're going to be drafting each other.
We'll see.
Yeah, exactly right.
I'm confident.
68th running. Welcome back to just a wonderful episode of First Things First. This has been just fantastic, bro.
It's been terrific.
I mean, granted, Nick, you missed our team dinner last night.
I wasn't invited.
Other than that, this has been just a wonderful experience. And joining us now is a man who needs no introduction. He's a Hall of Famer, 93 Cup Series wins. He's a 3-time Daytona 500 champion, longtime voice at Fox. So welcome back, Jeff Gordon. Jeff, thank you so much
for
making time for us. You know, we're doing our research.
Being here, man.
Oh,
it's
an honor.
Like it, right?
It's
unbelievable. All that energy.
Awesome. We were a little scared of the planes, to be honest.
The flight.
Aren't we all? I thought the glass was going to blow out the building.
We were doing research. I'm like, what am I supposed to ask Jeff Gordon? So I'll start here. I'm like, I'll just ask Jeff Gordon how he views himself. Do you view yourself at this race as 3-time champion, Daytona 500 champion driver Jeff Gordon, or the guy who's going for, as the vice chairman of Hendrick, his 3rd straight driver win at the Daytona 500?
Like it was such a long time ago when those wins came. You know, my last one in 05, the first one in 97, but it was at Hendrick Motorsports. So, you know, to be a part of the organization in this role now and be connected to the teams by, you know, just seeing their journey through their eyes and being, you know, understanding what that's like, at least from a driver and team standpoint. I would say it's more of the role that I'm in now. It's amazing to be on that list of Daytona 500 winners. Nothing quite like it, but I'm pulling for our teams to go win out there on Sunday.
Well, the man going for the 3-peat, William Byron, is, of course, on your team. No one's ever 3-peated. He would be the 7th ever driver to have 3 Daytona 500s, with the first to win 3 in a row. He's going to have to do it in a backup car. How much does that change things, the backup car things, and what would a 3-peat at this racetrack mean for the sport?
Yeah, I mean, this is such a tough race to win. That's why it's never been done before. You know, there's so many things involved with how you execute, how you avoid the crashes. There's a little luck involved. You got to have a great race car. Just so many things have to go your way. Decision making by the driver and the team, and that's why it's the most prestigious race to win. And how you know, everybody looks at it as it's just hard to get one, let alone go for 3 in a row. Yeah, you know, listen, William is a smart racer. He's got a great team. Not concerned about the backup car at all. I think that car will be just as good or fast or be capable of winning this race. Worry a little bit about the track position that he'll be starting with, coming from the rear of the field with that car. And then, you know, how do you get that track position? And then you just go to last year on that final lap. I mean, he was 9th, I think, crossing the line for the white flag. I never dreamed he could have won that race, and yet he did. So you just can never give up, and that's what that team has a lot of fight in them.
What's the biggest transition for you from driver to vice chairman? And I can imagine, like, there's so much of you that wants to get out there on the track.
A little bit.
Well, there's so much that was going on when I was on the track that I had no idea was going on. I mean, just all the behind the scenes of what gets the team, what gets those race cars to the racetrack. You know, you're so focused as a driver on your role and what you do with the race team and the prep that you have. But there's so many people that make that happen, from, you know, sponsors, hiring people, building the race cars, the pit crew that is, you know, doing all their practices and getting fit and ready, all the planning and preparation that goes on with the engineers and all the data that they're sorting through. So I love it. I get to now be closer to all those things. You know, folks in the engine shop doing every little nut and bolt on that engine. I just get to be involved with so many more people now, and I get to enjoy it through their eyes when they have success. But it also is because you go through the journey of how you get there. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this role. I put the racing behind me. The only time I miss it is when those guys have, like Chase Elliott had here last night. You're in that battle right to the end. There's guys jockeying for position around you. You make a great move. You cross the line, you know, first, and you win the race, checkered flag, and you get to celebrate with your team. Nothing will ever replace that feeling and that moment that you have as a race car driver.
Jeff, have you seen Top Gun Maverick?
I have.
You get back in that car. It's like, you know who can do it? I can. Like, who's out there?
I wish
Jeff
this
Gordon.
was Hollywood.
Since your first time here, and now that you're on the other side of it, what has been the biggest difference in the race itself, and what is exactly the same?
I mean, the competition's just gotten so much tighter. The cars are all more equal. The teams are all better. The drivers are probably better. You know, I just think that I can remember coming down here the first few years back in the mid-90s, and there were a handful of us that could break free from the rest of the group. You know, things were just handling better, cars were faster, and you had an opportunity to really mix it up amongst a handful. Now it's anybody's race. Truly, if you're in this race, you can win this race, and you've got to do everything right to get it done. So I do think it's even more difficult to win today than it's ever been.
With respect to legends like Cale Yarborough and Darrell Waltrip, I think most NASCAR fans look at, if there is a Mount Rushmore, yourself, Jimmy Johnson, Dale Earnhardt Sr., and Richard Petty.
Thank you. I'm happy to be in that company.
Oh, well, I mean, I think it's probably general consensus. I know you wouldn't say it, but I think that's how people feel. Of everyone driving today, contemporary drivers, are there one or two that you see and you say, you know what, that guy either has the makeup or is on track, or I could see one day elevating from great Hall of Fame level driver to the legendary status?
Man, there's a bunch of guys I think that are incredibly talented out there, but you know, you got to look at a guy like a Kyle Busch or Denny Hamlin's been doing it for a long time, doing it at a high level. All Denny needs is a few championships that kind of got away from him over the years, and I think you'd be immediately putting him up there in that category. Probably the same for Kyle Busch. Now you've got Kyle Larson, you know, who I think is definitely in the conversation. And then you know, William Byron, I would say too. We're fortunate to have some guys, you know, Chase Elliott. But I would say right now Connor Zillage is getting a lot of buzz as the future. You know, he's got the personality, he's got the talent. He can win at any track. He's not done that in the Cup Series, but he's done that in every other series. So that seems to be a guy that's getting a lot of attention like that.
You know, he's being compared to. I pulled this from the Charlotte Observer. He's compared to Jeff Gordon.
I knew I liked that kid.
That's so funny.
He's 19.
That is great. Well, the format for the Chase title now is kind of, they're calling it Back to the Future. going back to what it was years ago. Do you like that move, going back to that?
I do. You know, I won my 4 championships under an entire season of accumulating points. You know, then we went to the Chase format, which is what we're now going to have. You know, that's that 10-race stretch after the regular season. We went to this playoff format, trying to compare ourselves to other sports, and we're just unique. We're different. We're not like other sports. So it's exciting, and as much drama is involved with these rounds and you know, the eliminations. I don't think that is the best way for us to crown a champion or to recognize the best of the best throughout the whole season. I think this is a great balance of that, and it's going to reward consistency. It's going to reward aggressiveness. It's going to reward the race team over the season. I like it.
Do you talk to the 4 drivers on Hendricks, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, Will Byron, who we've talked about it for a while. Do you give each of those guys the same advice pre-race, or do you tailor, hey, you should do this, or I saw this? How do you basically coach them up?
I mean, let's be honest, I'm not coaching these guys. These guys have so much information they're being fed from their engineers, from their crew chiefs. You know, if they have somebody that's sort of a driver coach there in that conversation, I would probably just confuse the situation. What I do get involved in, I've been in the big moments. And so if I can relate to anything, it's what the pressure is like, what's on the table, or, you know, what's at stake, and just how to go out there and execute. You know, believe in your team, believe in the people that you're surrounded by, and believe in your own abilities. So in that sense, yes, it would be the same. But throughout the year when I'm talking to the guys, they all have their own unique personalities.
Yep.
and receive information differently at different times. And I do try to balance that out through the relationship that I have with those guys.
So this race been run 67 times. First 57 years, we never had a champion only lead the final lap, and the last decade it's happened 3 times. In the first 57 years, there were 9 total last lap passes for first. In the last decade, it's happened 5 times. I know there's a lot of reasons for that, the next-gen cars, all of that. Given how the race has been run over the last decade, how does that impact strategy? And as far as the best way to win it, maybe this sounds dumb, I hope it doesn't. It seems like the best way to win it might not be lead the most laps. And so how do you, as a driver, how do you coach the driver or to be in the best position to win a race that is so crazy at the end?
Yeah, well, you come out into it with a game plan. You know, there's a big strategy, you know, tool that the teams use, but there's a lot of, this is a chess match. 200-mile-per-hour chess match, it really is. And there's different personalities of how the drivers are, you know, working that strategy. There's different minds on pit road of how they think it's best. So, and I think it evolves every year. It's never the same. But I think right now you got to figure out how to get yourself into that position at the end of this race. And we just learned last year you can be anywhere in the top 10 basically on that final lap and get it done. You know, there's definitely some luck involved in avoiding wrecks and getting yourself in that position, but most of it I think is you make your own luck through the decisions you make throughout the race. So you know, when you make a bad decision, don't panic. You know, you'll get it back. Things happen quickly. But yeah, just try to make the most conscious, high percentage chance of moves that are going to either, you know, get you a net gain or not lose too many positions. And I think you just play that throughout the whole race of maintaining track position if you can. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not racing today.
Well, that's what I was going to ask.
And I'll tell you why. Because the driver has so many things happening. They're saving fuel. Don't give up this track position. There's a line coming on the outside. There's a line coming on the inside. Hey, we're going to pit this many laps. There's just so much information that they're being fed that I think it would be overload.
How does that compare to when you were driving?
Well, again, I think you could separate yourself from the field most of the seasons that I was competitive down here to win a 500. You know, you really worked on your car in practice, got it handling really good, tried to make it go fast too. You know, that was what the team was doing all winter long. But as a driver, if we could get the car handling a little bit better than somebody else's, then I just need to not make mistakes. And that was the separator. These guys don't have that luxury anymore. So much is riding on them in every decision that they make. And it's also, I think, what makes it so exciting, especially as we see somebody trying to go for 3 in a row, because it's really rare to do. I don't want to leave here without saying Hendrick Motorsports also has 3 other chances to win 3 in a row.
Which has never been done.
So we'd like to accomplish that too. But as good as William has been down here, I don't care if he's going in the backup. I think he still has a shot at winning it. But you know, I'm not in the car anymore. It's intense. It's always been a big moment. And we've got 4 guys and 4 teams that I think are going to be in the mix, and I'm excited about that. And if I don't know that there's a whole lot I'm going to be able to do to help them in that moment, but I know we put them in place and gave them the resources to be successful, and I can't wait to see them go execute that.
You were in, Jeff, more than 800 races in your 25 years as a driver. Does any one stand out more than the rest?
There's 2 that really stand out for me. The first one, we went to Indianapolis with NASCAR, a historical moment, the inaugural Brickyard 400. As a kid that grew up, California, then I went to high school in Indiana. Always wanted to race in the Indy 500. That was sort of my dream come true, was to go and compete there in the NASCAR event, but then to win it was just beyond what I could ever imagine. And then my last win was at Martinsville, Virginia, my final year in 15. My wife and my kids were there to enjoy the moment, and it was just, I got to go race for a championship because of it, and it was one of my favorite tracks that I raced on throughout my career. So that was a really emotional win that I'll never forget.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Best
guys.
of luck
Appreciate you guys being
on
here.
Sunday.
Thank you.
It's an honor for us.
Absolute honor.
More First Things First, live from the Daytona 500, counting down to the 68th running of the Great American Race Sunday on Fox.
Across the world with them sundown girls, my friend. The road goes on till it ends. You feel like tonight's till about 4 or 5 and sleep in.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.